Hello friends, welcome to UPSC Preparation Day 5. Today we are going to study about nationalism in India part 2. It will involve why the civil disobedience movement faded, the Government of India Act 1919, the start of the Quit India movement and the parties involved in Indian national struggle, and also the sense of collective belonging in India. So let's start with the civil disobedience movement. What happened with the civil disobedience movement? So, worried by the development of the civil disobedience movement, British government began arresting Congress leaders. Mahatma Gandhi decided to call off the civil disobedience movement and enter into a pact with Lord Irwin on 5th March 1931. By this pact, Gandhi consented to participate in the Round Table Conference in London, and Gandhi agreed to release political prisoners. So, you have to remember one thing, that Indian National Congress had rejected the first Round Table Conference, but Gandhi consented to participate in the second Round Table Conference that was decided by Lord Irwin. In December 93, Gandhiji went to London for the Roundtable Conference, but the negotiations broke down. With great apprehension, Mahatma Gandhi returned to India and relaunched the civil disobedience. For over a year, the civil disobedience movement continued, but in 1934, it lost its momentum. So the civil disobedience movement stopped in 1934. Not all social groups were moved by the concept of Swaraj. So we have to remember that there were some sort of social groups that were not participating actively in the freedom struggle. Untouchables were organized into Depressed Classes Association in 1930 by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He clashed with Mahatma Gandhi at the Second Roundtable Conference in London by demanding separate electorates for Dalits. So B.R. Ambedkar wanted separate electorates for Dalits, but Mahatma Gandhi did not want that. He believed that separate electorates for Dalits would slow down the process of their integration into society. So that is why Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar clashed at the Second Roundtable Conference. The sense of collective belonging. We are going to study about the images and novels that were very famous during the freedom struggle. Bharat Mata image was first created by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. In 1870s, he wrote Vande Mataram. Later, it was incorporated in his novel Anandamath. Abanindranath Tagore painted his famous image of ascetic, calm figure of Bharat Mata. In Mandraj, Natasha Shastri produced 4-volume collection of Tamil folklore called the Folklore of Southern India. So you have to remember the names of the books and the images that were created during this freedom struggle. Now let's talk about the Government of India Act 1919. In our previous video, we have studied about the Rowlatt Act 1990, which led to Rowlatt Satyagraha. Now we are going to study about the Government of India Act 1990. This act is also known as Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms. It was a significant piece of legislation passed by the British Parliament aimed at introducing greater self-governance in India. According to these reforms, the British government responded to growing demands for self-rule and marked a shift towards Indian participation in governance while maintaining British control. The Act introduced a dual system of government, diarchy in the provinces, dividing subjects into transferred and reserved. Transferred subjects were administered by elected ministers, while reserved subjects were administered by government and his executive council. So we have to remember that according to the Government of India 1919 Act, a diarchy was introduced in the provinces, dividing subjects into transferred and reserved subjects. The transferred subjects meant that they will be administered by elected ministers, while the reserved subjects meant they will be elected by government and its executive council. The Government of India Act 1990 established a bicameral legislature at the central level with the Council of State and the Legislative Assembly, providing a more representative framework. So, two things that you have to remember about the Government of India Act. First, it led to a diarchy, and it also introduced a bicameral legislature at the central level. The Act provided for the establishment of a Public Service Commission to improve the recruitment process for civil services. So the Public Service Commission was also introduced by Government of India Act 1919. The Act extended separate electorates to specific communities like Sikh, Anglo-Indian, Christians, Europeans, which further complicated the political landscape. Next, we are going to study about the Cripps Mission. Failed attempt in late March 1942 by British government to secure full Indian cooperation and support for their efforts to World War II. So now we have studied about World War I and how it impacted India, and how the struggle for Swaraj started in our previous video. Now we are going to shift our focus to the Second World War and how it impacted India and its freedom struggle. So Cripps was sent to negotiate an agreement with the Nationalist Congress leaders Gandhi and Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Cripps worked to keep India loyal to British war effort in exchange for a promise of elections and full self-government dominion status once the war was over. Congress rejected this proposal and knew that British were negotiating from a weaker position. So, what was the Cripps mission about? Cripps was a very important official in the British government who came to India to negotiate an agreement with the Congress leadership. Basically, Cripps wanted India to participate in World War II and support British in the World War II effort. But Congress leadership knew that they were negotiating from a weaker standpoint and rejected their proposal. What has Cripps proposed? Cripps had proposed that India should be loyal to the British war effort in exchange for a promise of election and full self-government dominion status. So they did not even negotiate for full independence. They just negotiated, like the Cripps mission negotiated for dominion status and promise of elections. Quit India movement in August 1942. So remember this year, in August 1942, Congress Working Committee, taking advantage of British government's weakness, made a call that unless Quit India call was considered, the Congress would resort to civil disobedience and the call the people to resist and violate government authority. So the Congress leadership knew that during the Second World War, British were negotiating from a weak point of view. So taking advantage of that, in August 1942, the Congress leadership announced that until they quit India, that is British officials and British people quit India, they would resort to civil disobedience and call the people to violate British authority. British imprisoned practically the entire Congress leadership for the duration of the Second World War. Jinnah, to whom Cripps had offered the right to opt out of a future union with India, supported the war effort and gained in status in British eyes. So, we have to remember that Jinnah had agreed with Cripps because Cripps has offered that he can opt out of a future India with India. So, Jinnah accepted that offer and supported the British war effort. The Quit India movement. Quit India movement was a movement launched at the Bombay session of All India Congress Committee by Mahatma Gandhi on 8 August 1942 during World War II, demanding an end to British rule in India. So Quit India, as the name suggests, that the British officials and British people were asked to leave India, and it was launched on 8 August 1942. Thank you so much everyone for joining in the session today. See you tomorrow. Have a good day.